This is like a good leg. Should I back up all the way? Or should I just...
Don't stick your legs out, that's weird.
You won't be able to see my leg. So do you think this is good? Look in the camera. Can you see?
Don't leave that piss water in the thing.
How much of me can you see? During this video, I'm going to post like pictures that were taken in labor. And some of those pictures are graphic. So if you don't want to see like pictures of like blood or like a baby being born, obviously I'll be talking about it. So if you hear me say, and this is the time that the baby was crowning, don't watch what's gonna happen next, because it's obviously gonna be a picture of the baby crowning, or you know, whatever. My placenta, my pussy. Don't watch. Okay, welcome to another video. The words of Mackenzie. Like, subscribe, follow our channel. Totally kidding. I'm going to do a vlog on my unmedicated natural birth story. And I'm sure there's tons. I remember whenever I was pregnant, I always like watched a bunch of like birth vlogs. And I feel like they're so helpful, especially like for me, I wanted to do like no epidural, no meds, and I wanted to like see other people's experiences in like those type of births and like how they coped with it kind of. My water broke at 12:57 a.m. and I remember it breaking. A lot of people wonder like, well, what's it like when your water breaks? I wake up to go pee, and as I'm going pee, my pee feels like really warm. Like I can feel the warmth, like that's how warm it was. And I was like, oh my God, my water just broke. And it was funny because that night before, Harley was like, oh, well, I was 2 days overdue. Harley was like, oh, well, what if your water breaks? And I was like, then it breaks. And it ended up breaking, and I was gonna record like me waking her up and being like, oh, my water just broke. But I was too excited, so I like ran back in the room. Harley, I was like, I think my water just broke. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know, like my pee, it's just like super warm. And it was just like slowly coming out. And then she was like, oh my God, like call your midwife. So I ended up saying, Harley, you need to dye my hair. Like I really needed to get my roots done because they were like horrible. After Harley dyed my hair, I called my midwife. By this time, I think it was like 1:30. And as soon as my water broke, I started having contractions. Like, and it wasn't, I imagine like everything that I had heard, it was like your stomach is gonna like tighten up. But I never once the entire time like that I was in labor, I never once had any feeling in my stomach. It was all in my back. So as soon as my water broke, my back was like kind of tensing up a little bit. And I put on my, I got a TENS unit from my physical therapist. So I put that on right away. And I think I set it to like a pretty low like level just to have like those electric pulses. But anyways, so I called my midwife and she was like, okay, well, we open at 8, so you can come in then because it's your first birth. It'll probably be a while. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I actually just was like, let's just go to bed. Like there's nothing that we can do. I ended up going to bed after I dyed and washed my hair. We go to bed and I think I woke up at like 5 and I was starting to get like more cramps in my back and it was like hurting a little more. And I said, Harley, like, it was funny because we go grocery shopping every single Sunday, and I don't know why we didn't go grocery shopping that Sunday. I don't know why. We usually always do, but we were like, let's like push it back one day. So we obviously didn't think my water was gonna break. I thought we were gonna have her on the 14th. So I said, Harley, I'm really hungry. Like I think I wanted like ice cream or something, or like popsicles, or I wanted something, but the commissary wasn't open. Harley wasn't gonna drive all the way to Walmart, which was like off base. She was like, okay, I'll go to the shop and see like what type of ice cream they have. I'm sure they have like freeze pops or something, or some type of like, I think I wanted bomb pops specifically, like the red, white, and blue ones. So she goes to the gas station and they only had like a couple things. She ended up getting me, I think like yogurt, like key lime flavor or something. I really do love that flavor. And a push pop, that's all they had was like a push pop, like sherbet. I ate that and then right after I threw up. So we kind of knew like at that point, I was like, oh fuck. Like I'm not gonna stop throwing up. Like every time like I got in pain when I was pregnant, I would start throwing up. So I didn't really expect labor to be so different. The fact that I was throwing up, Harley kept trying to be like, okay, well, here's some water, here's some Gatorade, because I was like obviously sweating because I was having the contractions. And I got out my app, like the contraction app or whatever. I can't remember which one it was. After I was like throwing up a little bit, I was trying to drink that water, drink that Gatorade, and it's probably like 8 o'clock. And Harley's like, okay, like the birth center's open, let's go to it. Let's go to the birth center, see what they have to say, check how far dilated you are, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And by this time, my contractions were like a minute apart. And I know this seems like crazy or whatever. It just seems like, wow, that happened really fast. But yeah, my contractions were like a minute apart. And that was like consistently. And then I was thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna give birth in the car. Even though I don't know why it would have mattered. It would, whatever. We ended up going, and by the time we got there, it was hard for me to walk because every time I would like strain my back, I could like feel like my back. I was like, ow. And I would sit there and like bend over a little, and Harley would like help me. So me getting into the car was like, it took like 30 minutes. So by the time we got to like where my midwife was, it was already like nine something. We get in there, and I remember like being in there and like sitting in the waiting room, and the receptionist was like, do you want some water? And I was just like, yeah. And the whole time, like my eyes were closed, and I was in labor the entire time. Whenever I post the pictures, every single picture, like my eyes are closed. I think there was like a couple times I opened my eyes. So she gave me some water, and then one of the midwives called me back. And I think the midwife was Shelly, who was my favorite midwife. I was hoping I always had her, but it was like the end of her shift. And she checked me, and she was like, you're 4 centimeters and you're 90% effaced, which that's active labor. So I was in active labor, and she was like, this is where people who are giving birth want to be. Like, you want to be at that active labor because that means like you're progressing the right way. It's not like I was stuck at like 1 or not effaced. Yeah. So 4 centimeters, 90% effaced. And this was at 9:30 in the morning. And she was like, you can go to the hospital whenever you want. So I was like, okay, fine. She said, and whenever you go, they'll already have your room ready. Like, we'll call for you and we'll tell them she's in active labor. She needs the room with the tub. Because that was like a big thing. I was like, I really, really want like a birthing tub whenever I give birth. So they wheel me over. Well, she asked if I wanted a wheelchair. And obviously I wanted a wheelchair. So they wheel me over to a section, like you're waiting for your birth room to get ready. And at the time, Harley was, signing in because you have to like give them your ID, and basically, what do they have to do for that, babe?
Nothing, everything, and took forever.
Yeah. And basically just took like a really long time, and Harley had to like get a visitor's pass and get all of this stuff to like go back into the birth room with me. She comes over and she says, okay, your room is ready. And I said, did I get the room with the tub? And she said, yes. And I was just like, thank you, Jesus. And they ended up wheeling me back. And whenever I first got to the room, I was still throwing up. So I had like that little bucket. And while I was throwing up, they were like, okay, well, we're going to try and give you an IV to give you Zofran. First tried to give me an IV. The midwife tried to give me an IV. And eventually they had to call the anesthesiologist to come in and give me the IV because nobody could get it because I was so dehydrated from throwing up. So I actually have like look at this tiny scar right there. I don't know if you can see it. But it's like this tiny scar, which is where the anesthesiologist ended up. And Harley said the whole time you could like see the needle. Mind you, because of my contractions, I was basically just like in such that like natural birth, like that instinctual feeling of like giving birth. I didn't even like feel them. Like Harley said, like they could see the needle like poking up trying to like find a vein. Once she found the vein, I got Zofran. I didn't throw up anymore, and I ended up getting up and I went into the bathroom, and as I was laboring, just sitting on the toilet, and Harley was giving me counter pressure on my back, which felt so nice. My midwife was there, and she was, doing the Doppler while I was sitting on the toilet. And she asked a couple times, like, can I check you? And I was like, no. And after a while, they were like, okay, well, your bath water's ready, so you can go get in like the tub. And I was like, okay. And I went and got in the tub, and I felt so nice in the tub. Like, I just remember, like, when I was in the tub, I still had like the back labor, but I didn't feel like it hurt, but it wasn't like as bad as it was being outside of the water. And the one thing I kept saying, I don't want to poop in the tub. Like, I want to get out. I don't want to poop in the tub. Which I don't know why. Anybody who's given birth, you know, more likely than not, you're going to poop. That's just a reality of giving birth. You have blood, you have blood, you have poop, you have fluids, amniotic fluid, you have all of this stuff coming out of your body. Like, it's real. You're throwing up, everything. You're probably peeing, I don't know, but just all of this stuff is coming out of your body, just so everybody's aware. Like, you're not, it's not like on movies where it's just like, there's a little blood on the baby. It's a lot. Then whenever I was saying like to get out of the tub, I ended up going back into the bathroom and like sitting on the toilet, and I got all dried off. And then I went back to the bed to like labor on the bed, and my midwife was like, can I check you again? And I remember this time I was just like, yeah, because I know it had been so long. I think it was like 3 p.m. at the time. And so she starts checking and she says, okay, you're 100% effaced, you're 10 centimeters dilated, you can start pushing whenever you want. And I was like, no. And she was like, okay. Which is really nice, like with midwives. I don't know about OBs because I've never had that experience, but for me, like my midwife, like respected the choices that I made. And when I said no, like she was just like, okay, like that's fine.